about the judges. That if there be judges there, that they have to see if the individual is lying. So we'll just see which word is being used for judge here as we proceed. Because he said you got to go before the priests and the judges in those days. And see, in that day, and for the word for judge here, you have Shaphat. Now, we talked about that. So when we look at Shaphat, remember, this is the judge, this is the govern, this is to vindicate, this is to punish, this is to act as a lawgiver, a governor, to rule, to decide a controversy, or to execute judgment. Condemning or punishing or vindicating. And remember, it's the shan, it's the pay, and the tet. So what are you doing? You're destroying the words of the snake or the commands of the snake. This is why judges, what we're going to sit back and see is the interchanging between these two words. The interchanging between mishpat and shaphat, and how one is for correction or the leading in righteousness, and how one is to punish. Deuteronomy 25:1. Listen what it says. If there be a controversy between men, and they come unto judgment, listen what it says. That the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. So again, the word for controversy is rev, and it's just something, a quarrel or a dispute or a case at law. And it says that when they come unto judgment. So when we look at judgment, see, we get mishpat here. So now we've inserted the mean. So now we're looking at, we are destroying the words or commands that contain chaos. This is what we're doing. This is what we have to do. But when it say that the judges may judge, we get shaphat, and then we get the justify, and we get sadak, which is righteous, and to condemn the wicked. And for condemn and wicked is rasha, which is a criminal, an individual who is guilty of sin, one who is hostile towards Elohim, an ungodly individual, or one who has done wrong. So when you come for controversy, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 5, and I think 1. It actually might be 1 Corinthians 6 and 1. So when we look at controversies, when we look at judgment, judgment is to determine what is right and what is wrong. Judging is to determine who shall be condemned for wrong. Let's make that understood, and so we can look at it. Mishpat and shaphat. Shaphat is for judge, judging. Or if you are a judge, to actually execute it. That is your job, to vindicate and to condemn. Judgment is to determine what is right. Know the difference. And every one of us is supposed to be able to know how to execute judgment. Remember, we looked on Wednesday, and he said that he knew Abraham, that Abraham would do justice and judgment and keep the way of Yahuwah and teach his household so. And we saw that with Joseph, because Joseph was of his household, because he was Jacob's son. And we seen Joseph keeping judgment because he determined that it was wrong for him to sleep with another man's wife. 1 Corinthians 6 and 1. This is a weightier matter of the law, as by the edict of Yahushua. He said judgment was a weightier matter of the law. So to know the difference between good and evil, right and wrong, is a heavier matter. We'll read that at Matthew 23:23 right after we look at this here. Because we're looking at having a controversy and bringing it to the judge. Let's see. Dare any of you having a matter against another go to Torah before the unjust and not before the Kadeshim. You can already seen that from what we've seen in Deuteronomy 19 and Deuteronomy 25. Because he said if you got a matter, in Greek matter is pragma, and it simply means that which is done or a deed is accomplished or business. A thing or a matter of business. So if there's business between you and another person, are you going to go before sinners and not go before the Kasid? See, that's our biggest problem when we sit back and how we don't understand our violation of judgment. See, let's pause, because we got to look at a lot of things in the law to make sure that we understand and that we know. Deuteronomy chapter 1. Because if it's a weighted matter of the Torah dealing with judgment, that means we have to look in the Torah. We have to examine it. That's what we're doing anyway. It's not going in the framework I had it in my mind how we were going to do it. But y'all willing, we'll touch every precept and every line and every verse in the law. Deuteronomy 1 and 15. Matter of fact, make it 1 and 12. He said, how can I myself alone bear your cumbrance and your burden and your strife? Now let's pull this word for cumbrance so we can see what that is. Your cumbrance, your burdens, and your strife. Cumbrance is Torah, and it's burden. He said, how can he, or trouble. He said, how can he bear your trouble, your burden, and your strife? This is what Moses is asking. See, everybody want to be, when we look at, and we already look at the rev for strife, and then when we look at burden, it's masah, and it's your load, it's your lifting, it's what you're carrying. Burden, axation. You know, everybody wants to be a leader and wants to lead and direct people in the word, and don't realize that you have to bear, which that word for bear should be nasah. Let's double check that, and it is the one that has to lift up, bury, carry, and take. You got to carry all these people burdens and these stripes. What? And this is why Mashiach came and told you. Let's look at it. Matthew 11. Let's just look at it. This is why he told you, because he's the one who came to carry all of this for you. Matter of fact, before we get to Matthew 11, Isaiah 46 first, and then Matthew 11. Hello, Pot. 46 and 3. Huh?
Behave myself.
You're behaving yourself?
My shoes keep running around.
They keep running around?
I see it.
Isaiah? He needs to sit down? Okay. Hearken unto me, O house of Jacob, and all the remnant of the house of Yasharal, which are born by me from the belly, which are carried from the womb, even to your old age I am he. Even to hoar hairs will I carry you. I have made and I will bear you. Even I will carry and will deliver you. He's telling you that he will carry you, and he's telling you he will deliver you. The question of the matter is, do you believe that? Do you believe that? See, a lot of people talk about a lot of things about the word, and the word for bear is nasa, and the deliver is the malat, which is to cause you to escape. What are you escaping from? From the clutches of death. I am aware. Thank you. Matthew chapter 11. I don't think he's going to stop scratching on the door. Well, I don't think he's coming in. Thanks. Matthew 11 and 28. Now maybe this again will take on another semblance of understanding for you, considering what we see in the law and Deuteronomy 1 and 12, when Moses said, how can he himself lift up your burdens, your trouble? How can he do it? Hello? Say, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. For I am meek and heavy in heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Because Mashiach came and said he could carry it alone. But then even at the same token, he ain't even carried it alone. Because we know that who came to help him carry his state? I can't, his name escapes me right now. I think his name was Simon. Let me double check and make sure his name is Simon. His name definitely escapes me every time. He came to carry your sins alone, but even when he came to be crucified. Yeah, Simon by name. Man of Cyrene. That's who came and helped him carry it. Verse 13 though. Look at what he sit back and you look at when he talking about bringing people to judge. He says to take you wise men and understanding and known among your tribes, and I will make them rulers over you. So the first thing he told him is to take wise men, which you should know is the kakam. No cough and meme, somebody who's wise, someone who's skillful, someone who's learned, someone who is prudent. Someone who has been separated by Yahusha unto life. So the first thing when you look at somebody who's a wise man, he's already been separated by Yahusha. That's why he said, whosoever I send, receive me. It's a lot. This is a key thing. It's men who are separated from. If you're wise, you already know you've been separated by Yahuwah, because your wisdom is what makes you separate. Continuing on though. And I skipped understanding. Moving too fast. Understanding is the benay, that to perceive or to discern or to understand. To perceive, to understand, or to discern. And we know the word for discern is nakar, and that's telling you that you got the thoughts of the head. Our biggest problem as a people who claim to be the servants of the living Elohim, our biggest problem is we do not allow his thoughts to be our thoughts, and we don't allow his ways to be our ways. Because I'm just mentioning what he said in Isaiah 55. My thoughts are not as your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways. But if we made our ways his ways, then our ways would be high just like he is. And if we made our thoughts like his thoughts, then we would be as he is. Which is why Yahusha had no problem determining and standing in front of these people and says, is it not written in your Torah that ye are gods? If it came through the scripture cannot be broken. Why didn't you then say I blaspheme because I say I am the son of Elohim? And we have John chapter 7 on deck. I know that much. The other parts I remember soon. Y'all can hold Deuteronomy 25 though, because we will periodically just reference it on general principle. Verse 14, and ye answered me and said, the thing which thou hast spoken is good for us to do. So I took the chief of your tribes, wise men and known, and made them heads over you. Captains over thousands, and captains over hundreds, and captains over 50, and captains over 10, and officers among your tribes. If anybody wanted to know why they do that in some of them One West organizations with captains and officers, that's why. And the captain, the Hebrew word for captain is sar, which means just a chief or a chieftain, a knowable, a leader, a head, a prince, an elder, a ruler of rulers, or Elohim, or a warden, or a keeper. They keep the people. Officer is shoter, and it's just an official officer, or a ruler, or overseer. Also a scribe. He said, and I charged your judges. So now we know when we see judges in verse 16, we should be seeing Shaphat. That is the word that we should see, and that is the word that we see. At that time saying, hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother, and the stranger that is with him. Now he's told you to judge righteously. Again, that's that word sadek. You need to know how to judge righteously. What is right? So while you sitting back looking at it, if you're going to condemn the snake, the words, the deeds, the commands, the actions of the snake, then you got to make sure that you do it right. And you need to judge every controversy between man, between brother and stranger that is with him. Verse 17 says, you shall not respect persons in judgment. So now when we get to in judgment, we get the mishpat here. So when it's time to point out what's right and wrong, you can't have respect of persons in that. See, that's where a lot of people. Now, when we look at you shall not respect, that's nakar, that's to discern. And persons is panim, or the face. He said, but you shall hear the small as well as the great, and you shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is Elohim's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. So again, when it says the judgment, for the judgment is of Elohim, what is right and what's wrong come from Yahuwah. So you supposed to, that's where dudes mess the game up at. See, let's go to listen, right? Let's go to Romans chapter 7. So if judgment come from Elohim, then we know full well that what's right and what's wrong comes from Elohim. We cannot make that determination. So when you looking at judgment and you have to sit back and you're the judge on a matter, then you have to use judgment according to what Yahuwah says is right and what Yahuwah says is wrong. Period. And when you do it, you can't have respect of persons. You can't discern the face of a man. And we're going to look at that. Matter of fact, I'm going to do it like this here. Romans 7, James 2, and then back to 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Romans 7 and 7. So understand, right? Judgment is destroying the words of chaos, destroying sin. Remember, this is not destroying or condemning a sinner. Judgment is destroying the work of sin or the words of sin, correcting, determining what is right and what is wrong. Judging is condemning and vindicating. Vindicating the righteous, condemning the wicked. That's what judging is. What shall we say then? Is the Torah sin? Elohim forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the Torah. For I had not known lust except the Torah had said, thou shalt not covet. So he said he did not know what lust was until the law told him that coveting was wrong. This is an example. Very quick, straight to the point. An example of the judgment is of Elohim's. The judgment is of Elohim's. See, matter of fact, since we're looking at covet, and I mentioned that, bear with me because things flood into my head. I want to make sure this stuff clear. Luke 12. And 13. And one of the company said unto him, Master, speak to my brother that he divide the inheritance with me. And he said unto him, Man, who made me a judge or divider over you? So he said, who made me shaphat over you? Who made me that? Who told you it was my authority to judge this matter over you? He said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consists not of the abundance of things of which he possesses. Because remember what David told you in Psalm. David told you, if riches increase, don't set your heart upon them. Solomon told you in Proverbs, riches surely fly away like a bird with wings. Is it wrong for wanting to increase your network? No, there ain't nothing wrong with it. You shouldn't set your heart on it, because where your heart is, where your treasure is, your heart will be also, which will cause you to lust and to covet. Because remember what he told you by the mouth of Paul, that the love of money is the root of all evil. And those who have that love have pierced themselves through with many sorrows. See, he never said that the money was. He said the love of it wars. Because the love of it begins to dictate your lust. So therefore you begin to follow your lust. Therefore you begin to commit sin. Therefore you render yourself that you have not executed judgment because you are not destroying the commands or the words of sin. Because sin will cause you to go after your flesh. This is why Paul said, I would have not known sin, lest the law told me not to covet. He spake unto a parable unto them, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. He thought within himself, saying, what shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. He said, this will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But Elohim said unto him, thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then who shall those things be which thou hast provided? So is he that lay up treasure for himself and is not rich towards Elohim. And the reason why we read that, because we about to swing to this James chapter 2 and about verse 1, is because that goes to the respective persons. See, we have respect, and I'm gonna give you an example of that. Just because he just can't, because I just read an article from Lisa Bonet. We have respective persons would say like a man like Bill Cosby. Your respective persons is that if there was a regular dude who was accused of doing the exact same things that Bill Cosby was, would you be so quick to rush and say that man was innocent like you did for Bill Cosby and say all the women were lying on him? Or would you look at the evidence that was before you on his merit? Or would you just automatically and summarily dismiss the common man and say he did it, but yet staunchly defend Bill Cosby, even though you know neither one of these men? The only reason why you want to defend Bill Cosby because you saw him on television and he made you laugh. And you feel like them white people out to get him. But them white people could have been out to get that poor man too. But yet you judge Bill Cosby to be innocent and the poor man to be guilty. That's respective persons. I don't care if it's Bill Cosby. I don't care who it is. If the nigga's wrong, they wrong. And that's how you have to look at it. And the reason why I mention that is because it ain't just black culture, but we surely hold on to celebrities entirely too strong, athletes too strong. You don't know these people. These people are in the flesh and contrary to the word of Elohim, just as all of us were. So if you got it in your mind that these people are not capable of committing any manner of iniquity at any time, you're fooling yourself, and surely you don't believe his word. Does that mean that the government and the media does not destroy people and lie on them for causes known unto them? Absolutely, we know they do it. But a lot of times, these people be dead wrong. And you don't want to let that go. And you know why you don't want to let that go and you fight so staunchly for it? Because black people don't have a strong voice and place in this country. You feel like you don't have a lot of people who represent you and some signs of success. So it pains you to your heart when they destroy one of these niggas. But these niggas are built up in a system that is not sanctioned nor stamped by the living Elohim. So why would you care? You know what I'm saying? I just seen a nigga say, yeah, Richard Pryor's still my favorite comedian. I overlooked the homosexual jokes this nigga used to drop, but now to come to find out this nigga was a faggot. Nobody don't even want to deal with the fact that this man was a faggot, but he was a faggot, and it is what it is. You either gonna watch his comedy or you're not. But the nigga's gay. Do you know what I'm saying? Well, was gay, and that's what it is. Deal with it. You didn't know that nigga. It's not like this your uncle or your cousin you found out is a homosexual. This is a nigga whom you have never met, and all he did was entertain you. At the end of the day, that's all he did was entertain you. And you acting like this man is your family. This man is ungodly. I don't care if it's your favorite musician. I don't care if it's your favorite athlete. If it came out tomorrow that LeBron James hadn't had sex with 17 different women in one night, I'm not shocked. This nigga don't serve y'all. So that's not outside the realms of possibility that he could engage in such particular behavior. If it came out one of your favorite musicians was smoking crack, why are you shocked? Some of us was probably close to smoking crack. You would have been out here in these streets long enough, you probably have been smoking it. Because if you was around here smoking weed and cocaine, you might have well been smoking crack. Niggas is around here drunks and all type of stuff. And you ain't shocked at nobody in your neighborhood for being a junkie, but you shocked at a nigga you don't know is a junkie. What does that work at? How does that happen? James 2:1. That ain't supposed to happen. And I'm just using extreme examples. I'm just using extreme examples about not having respected persons. I hope that y'all that LeBron James don't do nothing like that. I hope none of these niggas smoke crack, do none of that. But I'm just using that. Niggas was quick to defend Bill Cosby when he was accused of rape. But if it was somebody you knew who was accused of rape and he got locked up for it, you would say that nigga probably did it. Them crackers wouldn't have locked him up for it. You wouldn't have staunchly defended him and said he was not guilty. Do we not see the hypocrisy? For we know Bill Cosby raped all them women. You can't put it past him. Why could you put it past him? That's my question. Why was it outside the realm that he could do it, but the dude around the corner came? My brethren, have not the faith of our master Yahushua HaMashiach, the master of esteem with respect of persons. For if there come unto your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, and there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and you have respect to him that wear the gay clothing, and say unto him, sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor, stand thou there, or sit there under my footstool. Are you not partials in yourselves, and are become judges of evil thoughts? See, look this right here, right? You have not destroyed the words or the commands of the snake. Because you done sat back and you done judged through that and said that those evil thoughts that you had were just and correct. Because you esteemed this person who had better looking clothes over somebody who didn't. Because some people will render judgment and show favor towards people who they know they wrong because that's your friend. Or because you like them. Or you get along with them. I don't care who it is. If you're wrong, you're wrong. It don't make no type of difference. Only difference is that I'm going to judge in the matter of correction that you might not do it again. Because I'm going to try to understand your thought process so we can figure out a way for you not to do that again. Not just to come to chop your head off. You're going to get cracked upside your head, but then we're going to figure out what we can do to change that situation. That's the difference. That's what you're supposed to do. If you're going to correct, if you're going to rebuke, because I got to rephrase that. Because correcting and rebuking is something totally different. But if it come down to vindicating right or wrong, shoot. I don't care who it is. I don't care how close it is to me. I wouldn't care if it was my wife, my kids, my mother, my brother, my sister, my best friend, whoever it is. If you're wrong, then you will not be vindicated. That respected person is going to send a lot of people to hell. Because Deuteronomy chapter 10 about verse 17 say Yahuwah is not a respecter of persons. You cannot be a son or daughter of Yahuwah and have respected persons. We'll read that in Deuteronomy for those who don't know what that is. Listen what he said. Hearken, my beloved brethren, have not Elohim chosen the poor of this world, rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom, which he hath promised to them that love him. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Reason why we read that rich in faith part, because he told you that's what happens to those who make riches for themselves and not rich towards Elohim. If you want to be rich towards Elohim, build your faith up. Because we're going to sit back and look at Yahuwah don't have respect. Matter, praise the Lamb. Praise the Lamb. You know what? Before we read this 1 Corinthians chapter 6, come over here to 1 Samuel. Or 2 Samuel. Chapter 12. Let's read Deuteronomy 10 first. I apologize. Deuteronomy 10 and 17. And then 2 Samuel. I apologize. Moving a little too quick. Just got a little bit of inspiration. That's all. To go ahead and work something that I was going to work in anyway. But in a different fashion. And if this thing don't stop turning pages. Deuteronomy 10 and we'll read verse 16. Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart and be no more stiff-necked. For Yahuwah your Elohim is Elohim of Elohim, master of masters, a great Elohim, a mighty and a terrible, which regard not persons, nor take reward. Yahuwah don't regard persons. That word for regard is nasah. He don't lift up persons. He don't lift up persons. Let's look at an example where Yahuwah did not lift up persons and he condemned the wrong party. He judged correctly. Let's see. 2 Samuel chapter 12. 2 Samuel 12 and 1. And Yahuwah sent Nathan unto David, and he came unto him, and said unto him, there were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceeding many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing save one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and nourished up, and it grew up together with him and with his children. It did eat of his own meat and drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was unto him as a daughter. And there came a traveler unto the rich man, and he spared to take his own flock, and of his own herd to dress for that wayfaring man that was come unto him. But took that poor man's lamb and dressed it for the man that was to come to him. And David's anger was greatly kindled against the man, and said to Nathan, as Yahuwah live, the man that hath done such a thing shall surely die, and he shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. And Nathan said to David, thou art the man. Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal, I anointed thee Malach over Yasharal, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul. And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Yasharal and the house of Yehuda. And it had it been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of Yahuwah to do evil in his sight? Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to be thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Uriah the Hittite was a poor man. David was a rich man. David is described to be a man who was a man after Elohim's own heart. David committed wickedness by taking this man's wife and then sending him out on the front line to be killed. And when the scenario was ran down, David judged correctly that the individual who had done such a thing ought to be condemned and killed. The shafat had to happen because, remember, he that commits sin is of the devil. So when we look at things that are contrary to the word, then these are things that are being executed by the snake. You have of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. So when you're judging, you have to destroy the commands of the snake. And see, we're going to look at this twofold in a moment. You got to judge the commands of the snake. You got to judge him. You got to destroy him. David understood that, not knowing he pronounced judgment upon his own head. And Yahuwah's mercies, that judgment was not executed upon his head. Because there was a controversy here. There was a strife. There was a quarrel. Yahuwah sent this man to be judged. And when I say sent this man, I'm referring to Nathan. To judge David. David showed judgment. When the story was ran down, he didn't show judgment in not allowing that to happen, because he didn't destroy the commands, the thoughts, the deeds, and the actions of sin when they arose in his heart when he saw Bathsheba, because he was just but a man. He's of dust and ashes and of like passions as we are. But now we have a stronger power within us that can cause us to be refrained from sin, and that is Yahushua HaMashiach, by way of the Ruach HaKodesh, to all those who believe and obey. Because the kingdom of Elohim is not in word, but in power. This power calls you to be separated unto the hand. So when we turn around and we look at this here, Yahuwah had no respect of persons. He didn't kill David, but you know the sword always be in his house. I'll take your wives. Since you did it in private, I'm going to do all this in front of all of Yasharal. No respect of persons. This was a man after Yah's own heart from Yah's mouth. No regard of person. I will not lift up the face of man. I do not regard you over what is right. So if Yahuwah himself can render judgment upon a man whom he said is a man after his own heart, whom he chose himself, then you ain't got no business having respect of persons in judgment at all. About nothing. Ever. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. This is why it's a weightier matter of the law. The reason why it's a weightier matter of the law, because you have to turn around and determine, this ain't right. This ain't right. Verse 1. Dare any of you having a matter against another go to Torah before the unjust and not before the Kadeshim? Do you not know that the Kasid, I should say, shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Know ye not that we shall judge Malachim? How much more the things that pertain to this life? If then ye have judgment of things pertaining to this life, set then the judge who are least esteemed in the house. If we say we know the word like we say we know the word, every one of us should be able to judge things that pertain to this life and should be able to make the determination between what is right and what is wrong. We know that a woman can be a judge because Deborah was a judge. Let's look in Judges chapter 4 for the verification for those who may not know. Because being a judge is not gender specific. Judges 4:4. And the word when it says she judged is Shaphat. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, she judged Yasharal at that time. So remember, if she is judging, what is she doing? She is governing, she is vindicating, she is punishing, she is a ruler. She decides controversy or executes judgment. Yes, a woman can judge. Yes, if there was a matter in amongst the body, that yes, I could sit a woman over the matter to judge it. See, the reason why stuff like that doesn't necessarily happen, because most quarrels and controversies don't come to light because niggas is so concerned about I don't want nobody in my business. Versus making sure that stuff is done according to how this word stated things are done, so things don't fester and grow. But see, a lot of times, like we talked about on Wednesday, when judgment is rendered, niggas don't like it. And usually the person that don't like it is the person who is wrong. If the book say you're wrong, you're wrong. Deal with it and move on. That's how we need to start looking at it. Because we've already looked at and seen that there, right? We've already looked and seen that. We've already looked and seen that when it come down to judging, you got to judge what's right. And that judging and that what determines what's right and wrong is the word. Not our personal opinion, not our feelings, just the word. The word lets you know what is good. The word lets you know what is evil. Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 9. And after that, Matthew chapter 23. Matter of fact, after that, Matthew chapter 15. I try to crank it up a notch. It's only 9:30 though. Hebrews 5 and 9. Actually, that's 5 and 12. My apologies. For the time you ought to be teachers, and you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of Elohim, and are such as become such as have need of milk, and not of strong meat. For everyone that use milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. Pause. You know why that was important? Because of the kakam that we read about setting wise men. See, if you're not a wise man, the book said if you're wise, then you got skill. You got skill. Remember, you separated to the right hand of life, or the right hand of water, the right hand of life, the right hand of the ruach. If you're wise, you got skill. So guess what he told you? If you don't have skill, you are a babe. Therefore, you are not in a position to judge. See, notice when he said set the least esteemed, not the least skilled, the least esteemed, the least honored. Being a wise man had nothing to do with honor. Though wisdom can bring honor, you can have wisdom and yet be dishonored. Doesn't that you should know that by looking at the story of Yahusha. Much wisdom, dishonor. Jeremiah, much wisdom, dishonored. Shall we continue? Moses, much wisdom, dishonored. Because a prophet is not heard, is not without honor, except in his own household, in his own country, and amongst his own kin. I guess we got to read that too, just so y'all know. For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongs to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of their use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. To discern good and evil. Nakar, the noon, the kaf, and the rosh. The thoughts of the head of life. The thoughts of the head of life is how you're able to discern which is good and evil. What are his thoughts? Leviticus 24:11 says to take a man and keep him there till we can see the mind of Yahuwah. The word for mind in that verse is the pay, which is the mouth, which is the revealed word, the revealed commands. So when you have the revealed word of the head of life inside of you, then you know good and evil. You know good and bad. You can judge it. This is why niggas can't judge. They don't have his mind. I mean, they don't have his word. Which means they're not kakam. They're not skillful. They're not wise men. And they don't have understanding. So therefore, they're not going to. This is why wrong judgment proceeds. Like Habakkuk stated. This in chapter 1 of his book. This is why wrong judgment proceeds. Wrong judgment proceeds because evil and wicked men open their mouth. Since I said that, let's get that Habakkuk chapter 1 and then Matthew chapter 15. Yeah, praise y'all for the word. Hallelujah for understanding. I'm trying to tell you something, man. Judging and judgment are not hard to ascertain. What makes them hard to ascertain is that we have to destroy the things that are incorrect. When we talk about the things that are incorrect to Yahuwah Elohim. And that's it. Not things that are incorrect to me. Not things that are incorrect to you. 1 and 1 of Habakkuk. Things that are wrong to him. I done had conversations with people and they'd be like this, that, and the third. And I tell them, man, I can't say that this is that or this is that because I don't have any word for that. I can only render you my opinion and my judgment based off of his word of what I know is right and wrong on matters that are not explicitly detailed in the word. That's it. This is why Paul saying this is my judgment because I proceed to have the Ruach HaKodesh Elohim. Because we know all unrighteousness is sin. So then we have to, if certain things are not spelled out, like we know crack is not spelled out explicitly in this word. Could you tell some, it's a sin to smoke crack? All you got to do is know your Elohim. He's Kadesh. That's not a Kadesh behavior. This is how you can be able to make that judgment and determination by reason of use and having the thoughts of the seed of life or the head of life, my apologies, to sit back and know you ain't got no business smoking crack. It's the same type of niggas say, well, we can smoke weed, it comes from the ground. So does opium. I ain't talking about heroin. I'm talking about opium. So Red Ball. My nigga from Tennessee used to smoke it. I done told some of y'all this before. Crush it up, put it on this weed. I don't see no niggas rushing to smoke no opium. That come from the ground too. Very well may have benefits to it and all. I don't see nobody trying to smoke that. Go get your opium ball and smoke that. Put that in your doobie. It come from the ground. It seems like we only make judgments on certain things when it seems to be beneficial for us and the fulfilling of a desire of something that it is that we want to do. Versus remember the judgment is of Elohim's. The things that are right and wrong come from him. That's what we read in Deuteronomy. That's what we read in Deuteronomy. The burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see, O Yahuwah, how long shall I cry, and thou wilt not hear, even cry unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not save? Why dost thou show me iniquity and cause me to behold grievance? For spoiling and violence are before me, and there And there are that raise up strife and contention. Therefore Torah is slacked, and judgment never go forth. For the wicked doth compass the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceed. Wicked compass the righteous, this is why wrong judgment is proceeding. See, this is what ends up happening. And the reason why we read that was to determine this here. When wicked men increase, wrong judgment is liable to increase right along with it. Right along with it. It is mishpat for judgment in both of them. It's just going to increase. When you got a whole bunch of wicked niggas running in the pack, wrong judgment is always going to proceed. Because these niggas ain't going to never want to say nor do right. That word for compass is kabar, and it's to surround, encircle. Let's look at the example of what we talking about. Matthew chapter 15, and it'll get us back to John 7. Just that smooth. Praise y'all for the word. Hallelujah for Yahushua. Get you right back to the word. Just that smooth. Because it's going to tie back into something we talked about Wednesday. That's what's wrong with these niggas. You niggas think you can come into the house of Elohim and you've been delivered to work all manner of wickedness. 15:3. But he answered and said unto them, why do you also transgress the commandment of Elohim by your tradition? For Elohim commanded you. For Elohim commanded, saying, honor thy father and mother, and he that cursed father and mother, let him die to death. But ye say, whosoever shall say to his father or his mother is a gift, by whatsoever thou might be profited by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have you made the commandment of Elohim of none effect by your tradition. Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, this people draw nigh unto me with their mouth, and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain do they do worship me, teaching for doctrines and commandments of men. See, if it's a doctrine and it's a commandment of men. See, Paul wrote in Colossians, touch not, taste not, handle not the commandments of men, because they perish. The user will perish in doing so. Because if you're going by the commandments of men, then the judgment is of man and it's not of Elohim. Therefore, you're going by what man says is right or wrong. See, I'm going to tell you how a lot of niggas look at it. They look at it that if you preaching the word, you telling people what's right or wrong. I ain't telling you nothing other than what the book say. You can do whatever you want to do, because it's the words of Elohim. He that despiseth not man, but despise Elohim. For he is given unto us his Ruach HaKodesh. Because wherever his spirit at, his word is present. That's it. That's period. That's all it is to it. See, a nigga sit back and look at me. Oh, man, he said you can't have law. I ain't say you couldn't have nothing. The book said you couldn't have it. You take that up with him. I showed you what the words say. Do what you want. You know what I'm talking about? So they feel like, okay, you say, he said we can't. I didn't say anything. We examine the word bears witness. Yahuwah had determined what is just and right altogether, and that's what we gonna rock with. Period. You ain't gotta do it. It's your soul. You can do what you want to with it. But if you're wrong, and that was the will of Yahuwah that you transgressed against, then you're gonna have to answer to him for that. I don't have to answer to him for that. Because not only did I not participate, but I showed you out of the text what his will was. You chose to ignore it or to state that you felt it was my will or I was. See, that's a lot of people saying, I'm just referencing me personally. Not saying anyone has done this or done that, but I'm referencing me personally. Because of course we know if you preach the word long enough, people are going to say you said this and you said that. That's a given. So that's how people look at it. And anybody who preached the word is that you're saying it. You're saying it. I am not saying anything. Because if we're rereading what is on the page, then that's what came out of the heart of Yahuwah. Through his Ruach, in his prophets, in his priests, in his apostles, in his teachers, who wrote it down. Romans 15:3. And then John chapter 7. Make it 15:1. He say, we then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak, and not to please ourselves. Let every one of us please his neighbor for his good to edification. For even as Mashiach pleased not himself, but as is written, the reproaches of them that reproach thee fell on me. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning. Were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Now the Elohim of patience and consolation grant you to be like-minded one towards another according to Yahushua HaMashiach, that we may with one mind and one mouth esteem Elohim, even of our master Yahushua HaMashiach. You notice that he said that the scriptures that they were written aforetime for our learning. For our learning. This stuff was written for our learning. For our learning. So it's his will. What's written in the book is what's written in the book, man. I ain't got nothing to do with it. There's a lot of people like, oh, that's his doctrine. It ain't my doctrine, because my doctrine is not mine. Just like Mashiach said. Man say my doctrine is not mine, but his. Just like the man said, if any man do his will, you know if the doctrine is mine if I speak of myself. See, that's all. If you want to know if it's a commandment or doctrine of men, all you got to do is just do it. And it's going to show. It's going to show. If it's a commandment or doctrine of man, it will not destroy the words or commands of sin. It will not destroy the words that contain the snake. So therefore, you're going to perish. Because just like he said in Jeremiah, if they would have sat down and heard my word, then they would have turned every man from his evil way and from his doings. But if it's from Elohim and you do it, then the words that contain sin and the snake will be obliterated. And then you would know that person was from Elohim. It ain't hard to tell. Niggas can't tell because they wicked is all get out. It's disgusting and despicable. The level of hypocrisy, the level of idiocy, and the stuff that niggas argue and go back and forth about while people being destroyed. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. You can go back to John 7, but I'm going to throw this on in here, period. And it wasn't just this one particular matter. Because, I done said stuff like this to y'all before, right? That, if you want to know why you have the issues that you have now, that you feel like may be hindering you, and whatever area of life you feel like you're being hindered, you need to go back to your childhood. You need to think back to that. Because the things that happened to you in your childhood affect you in your adulthood. Because usually it's unresolved issues. It's an issue you didn't deal with. It's an issue you didn't talk about. See, we were talking about this last night. People don't like confrontation. Confrontation is not always confronting another person. Confrontation is sometimes confronting pain, confronting issue, confronting something that happened to you, confronting something that, and it don't necessarily somebody did something to you. It could be a situation. Somebody in your family could have passed away and it negatively affected you, and you never dealt with that pain. You never confronted it. You never looked at it head on. So therefore, because you hadn't done it, that resentment or that suppression of whatever pain or anger or whatever it is you got in you, it's been building for years. And it comes out. Some people were not raised to be confident in themselves, and it helped breed insecurities. And they don't even realize why they have these lack of things until they get older. And then they have to begin to repair themselves from this because they were broken. And they were broken by grown people. Not other kids. Grown people. Because niggas' parents be breaking niggas by how they raise them and the things they say to them. Like I told y'all before, right? My people always told, from a child, I remember hearing that. Never call a child bad because they'll believe it. Just tell them they misbehaving. Be careful with your word usage. You know what I'm saying? When we was in the group, y'all heard my mama say an issue she had was low self-esteem. I would have never known it. I never knew it. That ain't even something that ran across my mind, that was an issue that my mama even had. I never seen it. I never perceived it. She didn't raise us or teach us that way. She hid it from us. She hid it from us. You know what I'm saying? So because that she had that issue within herself, so that wouldn't rub off on us. that we would have to spend years as an adult trying to heal ourselves from that very same thing. And she knows where her low self-esteem came from. Some of y'all, if y'all got low self-esteem, you know where it come from. Do you know what I'm saying? And you have to, and see, these are things that we were talking about when we was talking about confessing your faults one to another and praying for one another that you can be healed. Sometimes that stuff ain't just about confessing those sins. It's about the stuff that caused you to act the way you act, and the move the way you move. You know what I'm saying? It'll have a positive effect if you face it. Because he said he healed you from all your diseases, and he heals you from sin, and he heals you from death without question. He can heal you from it. But the thing is, though, just like he told you, you had to confess your sins and forsake them. Which means you had to confront them. So whatever that you want to be healed from, you have to confront it. See, people try to make it seem like if you discuss some of these things, because like I said, you're more worried. You got to do it kind of like what Kevin Love did, to be honest. He came out and he talked about his panic attacks. And he didn't allow anybody to hijack it and belittle him and make him feel bad about something that he was going through. See, the courage come in if you can be the one and you say, you know what, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm facing. This is how I cope with it. This is how I live with it. Nobody can use that against you and flip that against you because you put it out there and you have control of that narrative. Because that takes courage to do that. And most people don't have that level of courage. Some people like to be victims. Some people like their pain to carry it because it gives them the attention and the sympathy and the pity that these weak-minded individuals desire. But those who truly want to be a full, healthy, functional individual, they want to let those things go because they no longer want to carry these things with them for the entirety of their life. You know what I'm saying? You got people out here getting molested. We already talked about black people don't like to talk about that type of stuff. That these niggas be around here sexually abusing these children. And the black people don't like to talk about sometimes our people been around here physically abusing children. Black people don't like to talk about the things that we say we are emotionally abusing these children. We don't like to talk about these things. We don't like to talk about the effect that poverty may have on our children. We don't like to deal with the fact that our choices in mates, whether male or female, and our interaction with them, how that affect our children. We don't sit back to like to talk about how we interact in our marriages, that our children are watching that and how that causes and has an effect on them. See, you don't want to deal with all this type of stuff, and this is the stuff that causes niggas to grow up and be broken. Because we too selfishly concerned about ourselves. Instead of sitting back looking at it's time for us to heal ourselves, then you can be able to make sure that your children never grow up and have to deal with any of the issues that you had to deal with. That they won't have those problems. There's very few black people that like to be able to instill any manner of confidence in their child. We already live in a society that seeks to break our self-esteem and self-view on every cut and corner. A child don't need to catch it at the house. See, we don't look at any of those small and subtle things that can cause an adult to be broken. Y'all know some of the stuff that happened to you in your childhood that made you feel the way that you feel. Then we turn around and look at it once you get grown. And mainly more so, I'm talking about a man and you have a woman. And you know you're a woman. If you know this woman, I would wager that you done had conversations with this woman about her life. Mainly her childhood, probably. I would hope you would have had those conversations. Because I think that's an adult conversation that two people who are interested in one another probably would have. So they could try to understand one another's background. Because you might not want to marry certain people. They come from certain background. Because it could come to a certain type of mentality. Because see, we don't think about none of that type of stuff. Because the mentality of the person you marry is going to be the mentality that raises your children. So if you see certain things in their background, you might say, I want to pass on that. I don't care how much I like them. I don't want to potentially have children with this person. And they raise my children in this fashion. Because that's all they know. And I can detect this nigga ain't dealt with that yet. And it'll be a cold day in hell There'd be a snowball chance in hell before I let this nigga raise and teach my children. You know what I'm saying? You don't, cause we don't think that, and vice versa. If it's a man to a woman, we don't think like that, cause you be enamored about the wrong thing, cause you ain't trying to know this nigga's background. You ain't trying to figure that out, cause kids coming later. That's guaranteed. You get married, guaranteed. Kids coming later. You ain't thought about none of that. This person's gonna raise your children. And the negative things that happen to them, they can transfer it onto your kids. And now your kid, and the cycle continues. We don't look at none of that. That's why you think the cycles keep going. Till somebody in the bloodline say they tired of it. And I'm going to do something about it. Most of y'all have children. So whatever things that you dealt with in your childhood, you need to eliminate them so that cycle doesn't perpetuate itself in the next generation. And it all comes down to one simple thing: knowing what's right and what's wrong and standing for it. See, niggas who don't really care about what's right and what's wrong will always, because the scribes and Pharisees knew right from wrong. He said they sat in Moses' seat. They knew. Yet they judged wrong every time. Every time. Just think about that. John chapter 7 verse 20. Gotta be better, man. Our people deal with and I ain't gonna just say our people deal with a lot. Life can be hard. And it swallows up the weak and spits them out unmercifully. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got time to be around here playing games, especially not with cornball niggas. These people answered and said, "Thou hast a devil." I'm sorry, I'm in verse 19. "Did not Moses give you Torah, yet none of you keep Torah? Why ye go about to kill me?" The people answered and said, "Thou hast a devil. Who go about to kill thee?" Yahushua answered and said unto them, "I have done one work, and you all marvel. Moses therefore gave unto you circumcision, not because it is of Moses, but of the fathers." You know that that's Genesis 17. "And ye on the Shabbat circumcise a man." If a man on Shabbat receive circumcision, that the Torah should not be broken, Torah of Moses should not be broken. Are you angry at me because I made a man every whit whole on Shabbat? Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Remember, we already read that. He told you to judge righteously. So when you are destroying the words, commands, or thoughts that contain sin or chaos or destruction, you're supposed to judge right. You're supposed to judge according to the word and not according to how it look. Not condemning on how something look, but you're judging it according to what this book say. According to what the words say. According to the standard of Elohim, because the judgment is not of man, but is of Elohim. What we see right here in John chapter 7, they were making judgment for men. They weren't making judgment for Elohim. Because if they were making judgment for Elohim, Yahushua wouldn't even have to say what he just said to these people. See, I hope y'all can really understand fully what he means when he say not to judge according to appearance. People, the dumbest nigga in the world is a nigga who judges a matter based off what a nigga told him and not knowing what's going on. That's the dumbest nigga in the world. That's a nigga who I don't want to hear no righteousness, wisdom, nor understanding from, because I know you stupid. I know you a special type of stupid. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about on the godly level, not on the natural level. You could swing it on a natural level if you so chose, but I know you a special kind of stupid. A special kind of stupid. When it comes to spiritual. Because how in the world you going to judge something based off appearance? How in the world you going to judge something based off a lack of information? Now you going to condemn and try to vindicate niggas. You have no idea what's going on. That's a special kind of stupid. That's a stupid right there. They sit you in the class. ESE on the door. You don't even eat lunch with everybody. You get an extra long time at lunch. You still drinking milk in the pouch and not in the carton. Don't want to Exodus chapter 12. 12 and 10. See, I'm going to tell y'all something, man. When you dealing with certain matters, right? If you don't have the whole plate. At the bare minimum, all that you really can say is that, okay, I can tell you that this is what it sounds like, my judgment on, based off the information you're giving me. But I can't make a final determination until I hear the whole of the matter. Because some things you can hear me like, that's what that sound like to me. That's what that sound like to me. But I done had a woman tell me, this. I said, well, hey, if that's what that nigga doing, that sounds sour. But I ain't talked to him. So I can't just take your word for it because you said a person did something, especially when what you saying didn't even jive with his character or personality of someone I've known for many years. See, it's easy for people to do that to somebody when it's someone who they really don't know. See, you can't do that with somebody who knows the person, like really knows them. Because you know that person's not believing that if what you're saying doesn't jive or go along with their character. This is one of the reasons why the people who were actually listening to Yahusha said to the scribes and the other people like, oh, y'all believe him too? And they like, have you heard this dude? Like, we've been listening to the dude. Clearly you ain't been listening to the dude. They couldn't be swayed by what these men had going on because they had been listening to Yahusha. He had been teaching them. They had been hearing the word from his mouth. So they saying like this here, man, look here, man. Shoot. I don't know about that. What you talking about, cuz? You know what I'm saying? Nevertheless, 12 and 10. Oh, no, I'll make that 12 and 12. We don't need to read all of that. We don't need to read all of that. He said, for I will pass through the land of Mizraim this night, and I will smite the firstborn in the land of Mizraim, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Mizraim I will execute judgment. And that's Shaphat. So now he said he's going to go through the land, and he is going to destroy all the gods of Egypt. So let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 5, and let's look at that. And then we'll go to Revelation 19. It's just going to be some quick hitters of looking at certain things in the law about judgment. Is how we're going to go about doing this. Because this is an overwhelming topic, to say the least. 1 Samuel 5, I believe I said. Could be chapter 6. I'll find out momentarily. Yes, 1 Samuel chapter 5 and verse 1. Yes. This is Shaphat, so we're destroying the snake. And then we're going to take that in and show you how Yahusha executed judgment on the gods of Egypt, on Dagon, and all of that good old stuff. And the Philistines took the ark of Elohim and brought it to Ebenezer unto Ashdod. And when the Philistines took the ark of Elohim, they brought it into the house of Dagon and set it by Dagon. And when Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of Yahuwah. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. And when they arose early on the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of Yahuwah. And the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. Therefore neither the priests of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the threshold of Dagon and Ashdod unto this day. But the hand of Yahuwah was heavy upon them of Ashdod, and he destroyed them and smote them with emerods, even Ashdod and the coast thereof. And when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, the ark of Elohim of Yasharal shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us and upon Dagon our God. So because these Philistines had the gall, the audacity, to bring the ark of Yahuwah into the house of Dagon, not only did he execute judgment on Dagon by cutting off his head and his arms, but he also executed judgment upon the people because he had to destroy the snake. Because any idol god, see Paul, 2 Corinthians chapter 4. And I guess I'm going to just do it a little different. Now we know how he executed judgment on the gods of Egypt. He destroyed Egypt. So we're not going to go back and all that there because Passover's coming soon, y'all willing. And if that's the direction he take us in to look at all that, then that's what we will do. But if not, then we won't. So where am I going? 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 4. We can read verse 3 though. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. For whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the esteemed Besor of Mashiach, who is the image of Elohim, should shine unto them. Now, when we look at the God of this world, when we look at Yasharal, our Elohim was Yahuwah. When we look at the people in the world or the nations around us, they worship nothing. Psalms 116, I want to say, before we go to the book of Revelation. Is it Psalms 116? Psalms 115, my apologies. Psalms 115 and 1. My apologies. Not unto us, O Yahuwah, not unto us, but unto thy name give esteem, for thy mercy and for thy truth's sake. Wherefore should the heathen say, where is now their Elohim? But our Elohim is in Shamahim, and he done so whatsoever he hath pleased. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throat. They that make them are like unto them, and so is everyone that trusts in them. He sat back and said that basically, when we sit back and look at, and especially the key component all the way at the end, they don't speak through their throat. See, since they don't speak through their throat, that means they ain't got no breath in them. Which I think y'all could take that from the gist of everything that was going on, and they ain't got no life in them. Which is why he had to execute judgment upon Dagon to make that manifest. To make that manifest on the execution of judgment upon the gods of Mizraim, to destroy them because they come from the snake. Because the snake is seeking to get what? Worship. So they have to be judged. So the God of this world is blinding you. Because we seek, because he said man is altogether but vanity. So we seek nothing to worship. Because we ain't got nothing in our skull. Even though the word of Elohim is present for all men to believe and be saved. We ain't got nothing in our skull. Just walking around here. Stupid. For no reason. Remember, stupid is knowing the truth and believing lies. Not ignorant. I've never in my life got on a man for being ignorant. Because I wouldn't want anyone to do it to me. Because being ignorant means you just don't know. But niggas be knowing. You understand me? Dudes be knowing. Dudes be knowing what they got going on. Don't think they don't. Don't think these people don't know what they be doing. A lot of these people know what they doing. Word or no word. People know what they be doing. All the slime ball, corny, lame, deceitful, disloyal, dishonorable, ungodly, wicked, conniving, scheming, all the stuff that dudes be doing. They know what they be doing. They know what they be doing. The whoring, the homosexuality, the pedophilia, the murdering, the maliciousness, the spitefulness, the scheming. People know what they be doing. The same way people who execute justice and righteousness and judgment, they know what they doing. Remember the book say the righteous tongue speak of judgment. The righteous always speaking about what is right. That's what we talked about Wednesday. The righteous always talk about what is right. Because what is right will destroy sin. I'm going to tell y'all this here. I done told y'all this before. But I'm just going to let this be known. I'm just going to let this be known. If anybody is not teaching a doctrine of repentance by the way of the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach and faith unto his name, which leads to the beauty of Kadesh and the fear of Elohim, and denounces and destroy and does not denounce and destroy sin, Yah is not in him and he ain't son him. Because clearly they ain't got no judgment. Because if they had judgment, that's what they would be doing. That's what every prophet, priest, teacher in this book did. They spoke against the things that were wrong in the eyesight of Elohim. That's what they did. They wasn't walking around here, we Israel, we got to wake our people up. Nigga, if they in sin, they still sleep, dummy. If they still in sin, you still sleep, dummy. See, a dummy different from somebody stupid. Because a dummy around here thinking he knows something, he don't know nothing. Dumb dogs is what Yahuwah called them, who can't even bark, can't even warn you. Lord have mercy. We have to be better than that. All of you are better than that. I know you are. You know what I'm saying? The question is, do you know you are? Elohim has chosen us for a time such as this to hear his word that we might be saved. Will we hear it? Is the question. Revelation chapter 19. Actually, Revelation chapter 13. Revelation, where is it at? 13 and 11. Revelation 13 and 11. And behold, another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a serpent. And he exercised all power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He do great wonders, so that he made fire come down from Shamahim on their rats in the sight of men. And he deceived them that dwell on their rats by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had a wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. I got a question for y'all. Based on what we just read in Psalms 115, what's going on here? I need somebody to answer, because I'm not going to move forward until somebody says something. And I got all night. I can wait. So y'all mean to tell me that none of y'all couldn't catch from what's in this Revelation chapter 13 in contrast to what we just read in Psalms 115? Nobody caught that? So you mean to tell me, come on now, y'all got to do, somebody need to say something. Like, what's going on? But y'all can't hear me. Someone like, what's wrong? What's going on? Nobody has any idea. Nobody caught nothing. This should be plain. This is very plain. So you mean to tell me nobody caught what's going on here? Can somebody say something so I know somebody's alive at the bare minimum? Good grief.
Read the verse.
Shoot. You got the word right there. Go ahead and read it. Oh my goodness. From this verse right here in verse 15, how does this go along with what we just read in Psalms 115? It should stand completely out. And I focused on it specifically in Psalms 115 because I knew what we were finna read. Somebody tell me something. I appreciate you, DC, for letting me know you're alive. Somebody need to tell me something. Because we don't need to be sitting right here at Revelation 13 and 15 waiting on a response. All these black people on here, and y'all can't catch this. I will read it again for DC because he asked. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Now, in contrast to Psalms 115, what is going on here? So ain't nobody gonna say nothing. Everybody's just gonna sit there and just wait for me to point this out. When y'all have this capability and ability to look at this, it's right clear. It's looking you right in your face. Not one person gonna try. Not one. Bring forth what?
So many though.
What in Psalms 115? What did we just read about them idols? He said them idols didn't have what?
They couldn't hear, they couldn't smell, they couldn't see.
What did he say about their throat? What did, what did he say about their throat? I zeroed in on the part about their throat. He said they couldn't speak. What did this man just now? Did he not say that the gods of the were made by who? In Psalms 115, he said who were making these gods?
Man's hands.
In Revelation 13 and 15, in this image, who making these images? Who making this image in Revelation 13 and 15? Well, actually, it's verse 14. Man are making the image. Now, what's
That's what I
the
said.
yeah? So what's the difference from this one in Revelation and this one in Psalms? The one in Revelation got life in it and can talk. So if you know the word, you're not going to look at this as an idol. You're going to actually look at it as it's God because it's got breath in it and it's talking even though it was made with man's hands, which is a direct contradiction to the word. Those who know the word would not dare be deceived by this image and worship it. Because we know it say idols are not supposed to be able to talk. Idols don't have life in them. So judgment by destroying the words that contain sin, or the judge, we're not going to be the one to destroy this image, but you would sit back and you would understand and know this is wrong. I don't care if this nigga's talking or not. I don't care if it got life in it or not. And that take you back to Deuteronomy 13. That regardless of whatever sign and wonder a nigga commit, you better serve Yahuwah. See, that's why I focused. That's why I focused on that in Psalms 115 about it saying that he ain't had no words it could speak through its throat. Because the serpent is going to come back later knowing this and do it. And this is why Yahushua got to come through and destroy the beast and his image. Because it's an idol. And he got to do this idol the same way that he did Dagon. The same way that they did the idols in Egypt. And because that the beast is going to encircle, like we read in Habakkuk, the righteous, wrong judgment is going to proceed. And people are going to bow down and they're going to worship that image. Because it's speaking and it's got life in it. Because he told you that the idols of the nations don't have life in them. So therefore the people who worship him don't have life in them. So when people see this idol with life in it, they're going to believe that they'll have life in them because the God of this world has blinded them. So therefore they cannot judge correctly to point out this is wrong. And those who know the word, this is why he's going to persecute you. Because of judgment. Because you will be destroying the words and commands that contain sin by telling people not to bow down to this image. This is why judgment is important. Because you'll know the word and you'll know right from wrong. Therefore no man can deceive you. This is why I told y'all knew it, but you probably thought it was way more difficult than what it was, and it's plain. It's very, very plain. That thing is sitting there right here in our face. Right here in our face what this man is going to do. But when we have judgment and execute judgment, knowing that the judgment is of Elohim and not man's, we're going to judge according to the word, and we're going to see past that deception. So that we know that he will execute Shaphat upon this man and his idol. Revelation 19. Hello? Hello? Where was that? Revelation 19, where was that? 19 and 20. He said, the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire brimstone, burning with brimstone. Swing to Revelation 14. Swing to Revelation 14. Because he said he going to cast those, the beast in there who made that image. Or destroy that caused the people to worship that image, I should say. My apologies. Revelation chapter 14 and verse 9. Hold on, make it verse 6. I saw another Malachim fly in the midst of Shamahim, having the everlasting sword to preach unto them that dwell on their rats, to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, fear Elohim and give esteem to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made Shamahim and the rats and the sea and the fountains of the water. So now the time for him to determine what is right and wrong has come. Now we read Psalms 115. It said the idols of the nations ain't have no hands, ain't have no feet, ain't have no ability to speak. Matter of fact, let me read that verse one more time. Let me read that verse one more time. Psalms 115 and 7. He said they have hands, but they handle not, feet, but they have, but they walk not, neither speak they through their throat. Can't speak through their throat. Because in order for you to speak through your throat, you got to have breath in you. You got to have life in you. So now it's time for him to bring forth his mishpat and to determine what is right and what is wrong. Verse 8, and there followed another Malachim saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all the nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The third Malachim followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the Kadesh Malachim, and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascend up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receive the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the Chassid, and here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith in Yahushua. So then when we read that in Revelation 13, we know that all idols are the work of men's hands. All idols are the work of men's hands. And we see in Revelation 13 that the beast is commanding men to make an image. But when they make that image is going to speak and have life in it. And he going to say, see, Psalms 115 is a lie. Because we made this with men's hands, yet it speaks and it lives. So therefore, that's why Yahushua at the end has to come through and destroy that image to execute judgment upon that God, the same way he executed judgment upon the gods of Egypt, the same way he executed judgment on Dagon. He got to turn around and execute judgment on the God of this world, or Satan, or that serpent, which makes it even more fitting that the word for that is Shaphat, which is to consume the words or commands of the snake. Because the word and the command of the snake was to worship this image, which is in direct contradiction to our law. So when you got judgment and you can determine, see, this is why you say the righteous tongue speaketh of judgment, because we're going to be speaking against what is wrong. We're not going for that. You're not going to deceive me with that. I don't care if your image got breath in it. I don't care if your image can talk. It's the work of men's hands. Therefore, it ain't no life in it, because ain't no Ruach HaKadosh in it. It's still the work of men's hands. John chapter 16. 16 and 5. Just consider. And then, because now we're dealing with the aspect of him destroying the snake. That's what we're looking at. Our war's going to just sit back and look at him just people judging individuals. But instead, we just going to look at, for the moment, him judging the snake, and then possibly move to him judging individuals. Because we've kind of looked at this evening a little bit, but more so on Wednesday, that judgment is determining what's right and what's wrong. And we talked about earlier, you cannot judge. The law says if you're going to judge, you need to be a wise man and understanding. So you got to have skill in the word. How do men set themselves up to be over this man people and not even be skillful enough in the word that they can render proper judgment? You don't even know what's right and what's wrong. So this is why goes back to why we mentioned that Wednesday, that blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, when men separate you from their company and cast your name as evil for the Son of Man's name's sake. Because they encircle the righteous and wrong judgment proceeds. And what we're looking at is how judgment is a weightier matter of the law. It's a heavier matter because it details what is right and what is wrong and what must be destroyed by the word of Elohim. See, right now what we're looking at is forfeits the Shaphat. We know that idolatry according to the Torah is wrong. Don't make you any image of anything in Shamahim or in the Arats or under the Arats, nor anything of the moon or the stars or the sun. Do not bow down to other gods and worship them. For I, Yahuwah, your Elohim, am a jealous all. This is what he told you. So because we know this, we're supposed to be able to execute judgment and know idolatry and point out that this is wrong. We know it's Easter time and niggas finna go hard about Easter. I ain't going hard about Easter. If these niggas want to believe a bunny lay eggs, then by all means, nigga, believe it. I'm not finna be wasting my time arguing with a nigga about why you doing this. Jesus wasn't raised from no Friday to Sunday. If a nigga can't figure out Friday to Sunday ain't 3 days and 3 nights, shoot, he got bigger problems. He got bigger problems. Again, if a nigga don't know a rabbit is a mammal, that nigga got bigger problems. Because his intelligence level ain't too high. If you sincerely believe that and wouldn't even consider, why am I participating in this when this flies against all logic? So my God is that stupid? And I believe that? I'm not going to spend my time with a nigga on that. Because when they say we got to wake up our people out of church, I got to wake up people out of sin. I ain't got to wake you up out no church. Wake people up out of sin. That would get them up out of church. You trying to pull people up out of stuff by telling they an Israelite. That ain't pulling nobody up out of nothing. You trying to pull people up by telling them about the law. Tell them how Yahuwah saves. Tell them how he's destroyed the words and the commands of the serpent. Tell them that. That's how I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But nevertheless, John chapter 16 and verse 5. I done been there and did that, dealing with them Christians and all that type of stuff. I'm good on that. I'm good on that. I can remember being out there in the street preaching word to some Christians. Boy, that lady was ready to fight a nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally. And we're trying to do stuff to provoke me to lay my hands on her, which would cause her man to want to fight me. And I actually called her out for it in front of that man, too. Like, you know, your girl's trying to provoke me to strike her. What would I strike her for? That doesn't make any sense. Had a woman ready to fight me, talking about she wasn't going to do this here and do that there, while she was with her bulldagging girlfriend. Girl, you got bigger problems than that. Girl, you was a lesbian. You was a lesbian trying to argue that Yah is going to save you. And you are abominable by your actions. Nevertheless. But now I go my way to him that sent me, and none of you ask me, whither go thou? But because I've said these things unto you, sorrow hath filled your heart. Nevertheless, I tell you, the truth is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you. And when he is come, he will reprove the world of sin, and of righteousness, and of judgment. You see this here? He said he will correct the world. When you look at that reprove, he's going to correct you. How is he going to correct you? And what is he going to correct you from? He said of sin, of righteousness, and of judgment. So that means he's going to show you what is right. Paul wrote in his epistle to the Ephesians that we all was once under the prince of the power of the air. and that we were all children of disobedience at one particular time. But because the Ruach HaKodesh has been sent unto men, now you can be corrected and you can be shown what is wrong and what is right. What is sin and what is not. What is just and what is not. Why? Because the Ruach of Elohim is without sin. The Ruach of Elohim is righteous. The Ruach of Elohim is judgment. He said he loves judgment. Deuteronomy 32 say all his ways are judgment. All of his ways will show you what is wrong and what is right. That's why he said, I'm Yahuwah your Elohim, which lead thee in the way that you ought to go and teach thee to profit. He teaches you the things that cause you to gain him. To gain him. That's the question you got to ask yourself. Are you dealing with this word to gain Yahuwah or to gain men? Ask yourself that question in your own heart. Commune with your own heart. Is that something you trying to do? Is gain Yahuwah. I told you before, when you gain Yahuwah, you gain everything that comes from Yahuwah. First and foremost, like some of those spiritual gifts that we talked about. You gain eternal life. And you gain anything or anyone that comes from his right hand. Make yourself rich towards Elohim. And not lay up treasure for yourself. The other thing that we talked about was it won't cause you to have respected persons. See, the people who going to bow down to that image because they see it got breath in it in life, they got respected persons. You don't want to have respected persons. I promise you, you don't. I promise you, you don't. This is like the reason why I laugh about it, because I know it's a lot of people going to go to hell behind that image when it's built. Because they going to have respected persons. Because they falling behind stupid niggas who claiming that they know this word, and they going to die. And it's funny to me that you going to die, because clearly you was earmarked and ordained for death. And I say praise be to Yah, yet your will be accomplished in all things, that esteem may be brought to your name in whatever form or fashion you see fit for it to be executed. Because he's just right altogether. But I just find it funny how we can read this word over and over again, and the things that we argue about, and the things that we debate, and the things that we want to focus on. But nobody's focusing on that to make sure that your soul is preserved on that last day. That this man put palms in your hands and a white robe on your back. That you have a mark in his forehead and that you can see his face, and this man will calmly come and wipe away all tears from your eyes, and that all pain would be removed. And that you would dwell with him in everlasting bliss, righteousness, and light for all eternity. And that you would serve, honor, and sing praises to the name of Yahuwah Elohim forever. And all niggas worried about is we the people of the book. That's all niggas worried about. You Native Americans, blacks, and Hispanics. That's all these niggas is worried about. We gotta wake the people up. They dying out here, man. You know what I'm saying? Physically and spiritually. And that's all we worry about. They dying out here. Satan is swallowing. This book say this man is like a roaring lion, seeking to whom he may devour. Knowing I'm an Israelite is not going to stop this man from consuming me. We need Elohim to stop this man from consuming us. And let's see how he did it. Verse 10, of righteousness, because I go to my Father and you see me no more. Of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. So we got Mishpat and Shaphat in the same thing. How are we going to be able, because I had, like I said, I had a certain tract in my head, but Yahuwah done kind of slid me in a different direction. The prince of this world is judged. Because of judgment, because the prince of the ruler of this world is judged. So we need to look at some of the rulers of this world and their judgment. See who judged them, how they were judged, and how that would partake at the end. So let's begin there. Let's go to Exodus chapter 17. And after that, Numbers 23. What do I want? 17 and 17 and 10, I suppose. Give me a second. We got a lot of. It's just so much stuff to it. I just ain't gonna be able. I be wanting to get it all of it. But praise y'all, He take us the direction that we need to go to. And that'll be Numbers 21 that we need to go and to accomplish the task at hand that we might understand. So Yahushua did as Moses had said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. It came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Yasharal prevailed. And when he let his hand down, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. Yahushua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Yahuwah said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book and rehearse it in the ears of Yahushua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under Shamahim. Now what did Amalek do? Amalek sought to fight with you and kill you while you were walking through in the wilderness. And he chose to come to the weaker end and take out women and children. Now, Amalek has been judged. He was doing the work of the serpent. His judgment is that he be wiped out from under Shamahim. The judgment came in because we determined that what they did was wrong. Therefore, they were judged. Now remember, this is taking us back to what we're looking at in John 16. Because of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. See the reason why I sit back there? Come to Numbers 24. I just want you to see why I'm pointing out Amalek, because if my memory serves me correctly, he is referred to as the prince of the nations. It's the first that I want. First of the nations is what it is. 24 and 18 though. Not the prince, but the first, which is shoot. Almost the same thing. We'll see what the word is there. 24 and 18 in the book of Numbers. Edom shall, you dirty dog. This nigga always change pages on his own. And Edom shall be a possession. Seir shall also be a possession for his enemies, and Yasharal shall do valiantly. Out of Jacob shall come he that shall have dominion, and I shall destroy him that remain of the city. And when he looked on Amalek, he took up this parable, and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. So why is this important? He said that he was the first of the nations. And I was correct, because the word for first here is Resheph, and it is chief. First, beginning, best, chief. Chief of the nations. Why is that important? He said his end, he was first, but his end is that he be destroyed forever. Well, as we correlate this to the adversary, not saying that he was the first, because clearly we know he wasn't the first. But he was chief. And he was tossed out. Let's look and see. Revelation chapter 12. And then Matthew 25. It also means choice part. You know, somebody who's a little decent. Had a little good stuff going on with it. 12 and 3. There appeared another wonder in Shamahim. Behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads, or serpent I should say, and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of Shamahim, and did cast them to their rats. And the serpent stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to deliver her child as soon as it was born. She brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Her child was caught up under Elohim into his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness, where she have a place prepared of Elohim, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. There was war in Shamahim. Michael and his Malachim fought against the serpent, and the serpent fought in his Malachim, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in Shamahim. And the great serpent was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceived the whole world. And he was cast out into the rats, and his Malachim were cast out with him. See, with that great, that's how we could sit back and see he was choice. Might have even been a chief of something, a head of something, but we can't verify that. So that would be strictly conjunction, in our opinion, at that particular point. We don't have no script to verify that. But we can see that he was called a great serpent. So he was a great Malachim. That much we can verify. It says Amalek was the first of the nations. We know Amalek wasn't the first of the nations. By no means. We know that much. Because this is Esau's grandson. So we know that because he said he took up a parable, which is a dark saying. So this is telling us about something else. Because of judgment, because the prince or the chief of this world is judged. Amalek in the Torah is being called a chief of the nations. A ruler of the nations. This is what he's being called. This is how he's being described. And he says his end is that he'll be utterly destroyed. Come on back over here and let's look at another individual. Now, what I was going to mention is, this is what got Saul in trouble. Because the judgment had been rendered. So basically, when Saul didn't take out and kill all Amalek and spare their king, he had determined that the judgment of Yahuwah was wrong. Because now you've determined that the actions that Amalek committed for this judgment to be rendered upon their head, that they be utterly destroyed, was an incorrect judgment, and that their works were justified. See, this is what happens when you don't execute judgment. When you go against what Yah said is right, you are inherently saying that what these individuals did is correct. And there's no way around that. There's no way around that. And then that's why he'll execute that same judgment upon your head. Because you agree with it. So he agreed to kill you along with them. But nevertheless, Numbers 21. 21 and 30. Matter of fact, make that Numbers 21 and about 25, I suppose. Yasharal took all these cities, and Yasharal dwelt in the city of the Amorites in Heshbon, and in all the villages thereof, for Heshbon was the city of Sihon, the Malach of Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab, and taken all his land out of his hand, even unto Arnon. Wherefore they that speak in Proverbs say. So again, wherefore they that speak in Proverbs say. So again, we are looking at another dark saying. Golly. Give me a second, y'all. It's trying to be turning pages on its own. Give me a second to find that. There we go. Now y'all should know the word for proverb, but if you don't, it's mashal. And it's to be similar or to compare. To use as a proverb. To speak in a sentence. And you know we should have the meme, the shin, and the olive. We'll deal with Proverbs another day. He said, come into Heshbon and let the city of Sion be built and prepared. For there is a fire gone out of Heshbon, a flame from the city of Sion. It hath consumed Ar, Moab, and the lords of the high places of Arnon. Notice that it's saying that it is destroying the rulers and their gods. Woe to thee, Moab, thou art undone. O people of Chemosh, he hath given his sons that escaped, and his daughters into captivity unto Sihon the king of Amorites. We have shot at them. Heshbon is perished, even unto Dibon. We have laid them waste unto Nopah, which reached unto Medeba. Thus Yasharal dwelt in the land of the Amorites. Moses sent to spy out Jazer, and they took the village thereof, and drove out the Amorites that were there. And they turned and went up the way of Bashan, and Og the king of Bashan went out against them, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, Fear him not, for I have delivered him into thy hand, and all his people, and his land, and thou shalt do unto him as thou did unto Sihon the king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon. So they smote him, and his sons, and all his people, until there was none left him alive, and they possessed the land. Because the princes, and remember this is king, so the reason why we're looking at it is in this fashion, is the prince of this world has been judged because of judgment. We know that the law stated that what were these people doing in that place? They were worshiping other gods. They were committing all manner of wickedness. Come over here to Psalms 135. Psalms 135 and 8. All of these rulers and these kings of worshiping other gods and seeking to come out against Yasharal as the adversary, as the beast is doing, is all pointing to the final destruction of the adversary. So what we're going to end with going into looking at how Yahushua showed judgment and then judged the prince of this world. And that we can just get this aspect of how judgment is a weightier matter of the law. Because you're going to be able to determine what is right and what is wrong and speak against it. Therefore, now, judging is something different. And we're going to we're looking at judging right now, truth be told. But we're going to look at it, y'all willing, on the morrow in a little different fashion. To lead into our main key point of something that I have not even alluded to yet. Verse 8. Who smote the firstborn of Mizraim, both man and beast, who sent tokens and wonders into the midst of thee, O Mizraim, upon Pharaoh and upon all his servants, who smote great nations and slew mighty kings, Sihon, king of the Amorites, Og, king of Bashan, and all the kingdoms of Canaan. And he gave their land for an inheritance unto Yasharal his people. Thy name, O Yahuwah, endure forever, and thy memorial, O Yahuwah, throughout all generations. For Yahuwah will judge his people, and he will repent himself concerning his servants. And Psalms 135 is going to reiterate what we already read, and we're just going to read it again. The idols of the heathen are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. Remember, but that image that the beast going to make going to have a mouth and can speak. Remember that in Revelation 13 and 15 and verse 16. His image is going to have a mouth that can talk and will have breath in it and be alive. They have mouths, but and they have ears, but they hear not. Neither is there any breath in their mouths. They that make them are like unto them, and so is every one that trust in them. Baruch Yahuwah, O house of Yasharal. Baruch Yahuwah, O house of Aaron. Baruch Yahuwah, O house of Levi. Ye that fear Yahuwah. Baruch Yahuwah. Baruch Yahuwah out of Zion, which dwell at Jerusalem. Hallelujah. So understand something. This man is going to try to fool you by making you believe that he have life in him. And how does that take us back to Eve not executing judgment in the garden? Because he told you not to partake of that tree. But when he told you that you'll be as gods and you shall die not, you believed it. See, Eve didn't execute judgment, which was destroying the commands of sin that he offered. This is why the book say, when sinners entice thee, consent thou not, and how evil communications corrupt good manners, and not to be unequally yoked with unbelievers, because they could affect your judgment, because they begin to make what looks wrong good, which is why he say, woe unto them that call good evil and evil good. Destruction be to you. Which goes back to what we looked at earlier before. Do not judge based off appearance. Judge righteous judgment. Judge it according to the word. The law say the judgment is not of man, but of Elohim's. So the mishpat is of Elohim. Destroying the words that contain sin is of Elohim. Meaning his words destroy sin, because sin is transgression of the law. Who have taught Yahuwah in the way of righteousness and show him understanding. So therefore his word is how you judge. As a matter of fact, his word is how you execute judgment. Every last one of us should be able to execute judgment. If not, we got a problem. I ain't saying that you got to be the most superior person in the world and you got to have all level of understanding. You can have a small manner of wisdom and understanding and still know how to execute judgment. This is wrong. Stuff ain't that hard. We make it hard. This is wrong. What's hard about that? I know what the words say. This is wrong. I'm not doing it. Simple as that. We don't have to make it more difficult than what it is. We simply don't. Let's come over here to what do we want? What do we want? John chapter 15. Now he said of judgment. Now with each one of these kings we looked at, whether it was Og, whether it was Sihon, whether it was Amalek, they were wrong. Og and Bashan, Moab, they were all worshiping these idol gods. And they were wrong. See, the reason why idolatry is the focus over any other thing else, because we've talked about this before. Idolatry leads you to do what you want to do because you have no rules to govern your behavior. So idolatry is a very, very dangerous thing because it leads to all manner of iniquity. 15 and 20. 22 actually. He said, if I had not come and spoken unto them, they had not had sin. But now they have no cloak for their sin, because Yahushua has came and he has executed judgment. He that hate me hate my Father also. If I had not done among them the works which no other man did, they had not had sin. But now they both have seen and hated both me and my Father. In John chapter 16, he speaks about how he had to overcome. And in Genesis chapter 3, it talks about how the serpent would bruise his heel and he would bruise his head. And Paul stated the same thing, that the Elohim of Shalom shall bruise the head of Hashatan shortly. Or what about Psalms 110 when he say, come sit here at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool? Because he has to judge them, he has to destroy them, he has to consume them. Well, through the consume, and see, this is what takes us back to how praise Yah for Yahushua and the word, how to come back full circle to what we looked at Habakkuk when he talking about the wicked encircle the righteous and wrong judgment proceed. They consume the righteous. See, remember that they said that Yahushua had a devil in him, had Beelzebub in him. That's what he was doing the works by. They said he was a blasphemer and he was wicked. They said he was a sinner and a transgressor. So they thought by killing him that they were destroying the words contained in the snake. This is what they felt. Which is why Yahushua told you in the 16th chapter of John that we talked about on Wednesday, that they will put you out of the synagogue, and he that killeth you will think he'll be doing Elohim service, because we're destroying the serpent. Not realizing you destroying Elohim. But Yahushua had to be consumed because the Father hadn't already executed judgment. This is what is right. To destroy the words that contain sin, my son must be destroyed. Romans chapter 8. And by my son being destroyed, it can allow me to consume the words of the snake, or to consume Satan and the things that Satan had power over, which is death. Which is what was pointing us back to looking at all those kings. Because they were worshiping nothing. They had no life in them. Therefore, they were death. Therefore, Yasharal consumed them. Whether it was Moses when we came up out of Egypt and Pharaoh was consumed, as we looked at before, but not in great detail. Whether it was Amalek being consumed in the battle with Yahushua son of Nun, and then later when Saul didn't execute it, but Samuel finished the job. Or whether it was the proverb that was taken up that we just read in Numbers with Sihon and Og of Bashan, with them being consumed. Which is why we read Psalms 135, because they went to talking about them, and then it went swiftly to how the heathens were idol worshippers. Swiftly to it. Because these people were dead, they had no life in them. So therefore we would have to consume them in order for life to be brought forth. Judgment allows life to be brought forth, because you can destroy what is wrong But when you're executing judgment, you're destroying what is wrong, not who is wrong. That's what judging is for, which is what we've been looking at on the flip side. And we worked all that in so that you could be able to have the judgment and know right from wrong. That when this man has men make this image, and this image comes to life, and this image go to talking, that you don't be fooled, because you know what your God already told you. Because you know right from wrong. Why? Because you're not a babe. You're not unskillful in the word. It's because you're using it. Not just watching a video, not just reading pages, using it. You have to use it. You have to use it. Your judgment will not expand. Your discernment will not expand if you don't put the word in practice. I don't care how much you know. I don't care how great your understanding is. I don't care how much wisdom you have. If you don't put it in practice, it means absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I forgot what I was going. I should have clicked. Oh, I should have clicked that when I had a chance. Oh, Romans chapter 8, verse 1. Praise y'all. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Yahushua HaMashiach, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Ruach. For the Torah of Ruach of life and Yahushua HaMashiach have made me free from the Torah of sin and death. For what the Torah could not do, and that it was weak through the flesh, Elohim sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh. So you see that? For judgment, for the prince of this world is judged. So in order for the prince of the world to be judged, Yahuwah judged that Yahushua had to come show us what was right from wrong. That's why Paul said, is he the minister of sin? Elohim forbid. Mashiach didn't come to do that. He said, not so if you have heard of Yahushua and you have been taught of him. But be renewed in the Ruach of your mind, and put off the old behavior of the corrupt man, and put on a new man who is created in righteousness and true Kadash. That's judgment. And because of that, because Yahushua was consumed, it allows the adversary to be consumed at the last. Because he has to be judged. The same way that Dagon was judged. The same way that the gods of Egypt were judged. The same way how the beast in his image is going to be judged. The same way how Og and of Bashan and Sion were judged. He had to be. Same way Amalek was judged. They were consumed because they were moving by the snake. And that's the reason why y'all praise y'all for Yahushua for that we will focus on idolatry, because idolatry is definitely one of the plots, plans, and devices of the snake. That's one of his plots, plans, and devices, is idolatry. Because idolatry at the end of the day is self-worship. You worship yourself. Your God is your belly. You mind earthly things. Meaning your God is Satan. That is your God. Your God don't have no life in him because there is no truth in him. Hebrews 2 and 14. We finna get ready to call it a night. I think we jam-packed enough information in one sitting. Definitely didn't go into the way that I had it designed in my brain. But hallelujah for Yahushua regardless. For as much then as children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death. So Yahushua, see, hold on. I don't want to read that Hebrews 2 and 14 just quite yet. Not quite yet, because we will be talking about judging Yah willing on the morrow. But I gotta take it in a different fashion. And I'm looking for like something just popped in my head. I'm trying to find the verse. Come over here to 2 Corinthians, I want to say. 5 and 10. That one there is cool, but it just ain't the one that I want. But it's gonna have to be what it's gonna be. Yeah, the judging aspect of what we're gonna look at, y'all willing, on tomorrow is gonna be pretty rough. It's gonna be pretty rough. Maybe not, hopefully not rough for any of us, but it's gonna be a. When I say rough, meaning it's gonna be a harsh reality that may be spoken about, but it's not spoken about in the effect that we probably gonna do it tomorrow. 5 and 10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Mashiach, that everyone may receive the things done in his body, according to that he have done, whether it be good or bad. Knowing therefore the terror of the master, we persuade men, but we are made manifest unto Elohim, and I trust also manifest in your consciences. For we commend not ourselves again unto you, but give you occasion to esteem on our behalf, that you may have somewhat to answer them which esteem in appearance and not in heart. For whether we be besides ourselves, it is to Elohim, and whether we be sober, it is for your cause. For the love of Mashiach constrain us, because we thus judge that if one died for all, then we are all dead. And he that died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves, but unto him which died for them and rose again. See, notice he said that we judged. We judged. So when we look at it in that aspect, what are we looking at? We're looking at the fact that if you can judge that one man has been consumed for sin, that you would judge that you have been consumed as well. And if you have been consumed as well, then you would no longer live for yourself, but live for this man who was consumed for you to destroy the adversary. 1 John 3 and 10 states, 1 John 3 and 8 I should say, states that for this cause the Son of Elohim was made manifest, that he might destroy the works of the devil. That he might destroy the works of the devil. Why did he have to destroy the works of the devil? Because he had to consume him. Shaphat had to be executed. There had to be some vindication. There had to be some judgment. I know I mentioned Deuteronomy 25 and 1, and Deuteronomy 25 and 1 is the focus of what we've been talking about all night. If there's controversy between men and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, then they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. When it came down for Yahushua and the adversary to be judged, who do you think would justify and who you think would condemn? And we're going to deal with that a little bit more, y'all willing, on tomorrow, dealing with that. If you out here out of pocket, this man got something for you. This man got something for you. And I don't want that. I don't want that for you. Because I don't want it for myself. Because that junk ain't going to be nothing nice. You understand what I'm telling you? That man said, we know the terror of the Lord. We know the terror of Yahuwah. We know the terror of Mashiach. But you know, some of y'all may not know the terror of Yahuwah. Some of you may not know it. Believe you me, you don't want nothing to do with it. Hebrew 2, man. I promise you don't want nothing to do with it. It ain't nothing you want to have on your back, in your face. You don't want nothing to do with it. This man came and consumed the body of sin and death so you wouldn't have to face it. This is how Satan got judged. You got to realize something. For Satan to get in that lake to get the condemnation, Yahushua had to take that on and take that condemnation on so he could turn around and condemn him later. Yahuwah judged that it was expedient, as Kaphia stated, that one man died for the people, that the people perish not. For as much then as children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had power over death, that is, the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. Let's take our trip to Matthew chapter 25. I want to say about verse 30. Matthew chapter 25 and verse 30. I'll make that oh no. 31 is what we need. When the Son of Man shall come in his esteem, and all the Kadesh Malachim with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his esteem. Before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate one from another, as a shepherd divideth sheep from the goats. He shall set his sheep on his right hand, and the goats on the left. Then shall the Malach say unto them on his right hand, Come ye, Baruch to my Abba, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. Drop to verse 41. Then shall he say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his Malachim. That is the final judgment for Satan. Why is that the final judgment for Satan? Because he brought death into the world. Because he is a sinner. And that lake where the worm dies not and the fire shall not be quenched is what happens when the prince of the world is judged. The minute Yahushua told them that he would have to send the minute the Ruach HaKodesh came, because remember he's saying this here that the Ruach has to leave so the Ruach could come. The moment that man took off from the Mount of Olives and ascended back into Shamahim to sit at the right hand of Abba Yahuwah and sent the Ruach HaKodesh upon his apostles, Satan's judgment was complete. And it was over for him. Because at that point, it had been showed that obedience to Yahuwah brought forth life and disobedience brought death, and that what Satan did in the garden was wrong. Even though we knew it was wrong, Yahushua overcoming death confirmed that. Therefore, it could confirm that the same way that Yahushua can ascend back into Shamahim and receive eternal life and to give it unto all them that the captain of our salvation be made perfect through sufferings, that we could be made perfect through him and be partakers of his Kadeshness and everlasting life through his body, is the same way how Satan and anyone who serves him will burn forever. But with that being said, praise be to Yah for Yahushua and the Word. Does everybody understand all of that? And does anybody have any questions of any type?